Hello and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's review for Star Trek Discovery Season 3, Episode 7, Unification III. This video is part of a series of videos where I review episodes of Star Trek Discovery, so I'll have to start with a spoiler warning for Discovery up to Season 3, Episode 7. If you haven't seen up to this point, you will not want to watch this video. Otherwise, some things will be spoiled for you. So, Unification 3 is quite a pretentious title. I heard about that there was going to be an episode called Unification 3 like a month ago or whatever. And as soon as I heard that, I'm like, really? But I suppose this episode kind of earned it. It's kind of like showing you the end result of Spock's unification, of joining the Vulcans and Romulans, and Spock is referenced a lot. They even show a clip from Unification Part 2 in this episode, so I suppose, but I still think it's a little bit pretentious to call it Unification, because it's not really the third part of that two-parter. So as for the episode itself, it's okay. I thought it was decent. There was things about it I liked. There was things about it I didn't like. I think overall Discovery is still leaning too much on the melodrama. I like that it was kind of a bottle episode where it was mostly dialogue. Those are my favorite kinds of episodes. Where it's, invoked this sort of trial format, although not in the way that I think is tired or unusual, because the tired, unusual trial format trope in Star Trek is someone's falsely accused of murder and the captain has to clear their name or whatever, or if it is the captain, someone else has to clear their name, whatever. But it's not that. So this reminded me more of episodes like Measure of the Man, where it's more like a specific philosophy is on trial, which is a lot more interesting to me. So I did really like that. But again, I didn't like how they got into the melodrama and they actually made the trial about Burnham's character growth, which, I don't know, that kind of annoyed me, if I'm going to be perfectly honest here. So, I like that the revelation that there's that Vulcans changed his name to Navarre after the unification between the Romulans and the Vulcans, and that we see firsthand that alliance is still a bit tenuous, which makes a lot of sense. And it's a great metaphor to explore the integration of different cultures and the issues that they have, particularly modern day United States, and how we're all better together if we all work together, acknowledge these cultural differences. So I think that sort of social commentary in there I thought was really well used. I really appreciate it. So Burnham goes there to find out this missing information about the burn and whatever, and it's an experiment that the Vulcans believe was responsible for the burn. I gotta admit I was a bit teed off when they revealed this, because Burnham specifically asked the Admiral guy in Starfleet what caused the burn, and he's like, oh, there's more theories than stars in the sky or some shit like this. Didn't even fail to mention the fact that the planet used to be known as Vulcan, formerly known as Vulcan, firmly believes in one theory. I think that's a significant, I would have at least mentioned that. It's like, well, we don't know for certain, and there's lots of theories, but here's a prominent theory that, Vulcans believe, but they just failed to mention that until now. That kind of annoys me. That's reeks of plot convenience to me. The Vulcans are certain that there is or the Navarrians, or however you call them now, but they're certain that there is one specific cause, and they're so sure about that they refuse to give up the information. Now, granted, a lot of their certainty around that is sort of soaked in the sort of cultural mindset. And it reminded me a lot of the episode First Contact for Next Generation, where a lot of how they proceed is based on how society would react or how it would hurt their society rather than truth. And there seems to be a lot of that. And again, there's a lot of social commentary involved in that, how people politicize science instead of just dealing with the plain scientific truth, which is why I didn't really like this stuff with Burnham's personal character story coming into it, because I thought that should have been about plain science. So I think they kind of ruined the metaphor a bit personally. That's just me, because instead of unpoliticizing the pure science, they added like personal character information into it to prove her character, which I actually think is bullshit. Someone's personal character does not affect science, but whatever. I mean, it affects politics, but I really don't think it should either. But I'm getting off topic here. So, they go to, they use Michael Burnham's name as, the sister of Spock, and she's so revered because Spock is so revered. But I thought they kind of, Spock said, "I'm never going to speak of you again." Like, he vowed to never talk of his sister ever again, to try to sort of a cheap way to do the Simpsons judge thing, to try to reconcile canon. And if that, which was total bullshit, but if that was the case, then these Vulcans wouldn't know who Michael Burnham is. In fact, all they say, "Oh, this is Michael Burnham. Oh, Michael Burnham. Oh, we know exactly who that is." I thought we agreed to never speak of her again. So that kind of bumps up against that they actually know who she is. But whatever. That's not a main gripe I have with this episode. I guess the main gripe I have is the inclusion of Burnham's mother. I'm sorry, but I never really cared about this character. Now, I expected some resolution to the storyline to see her again, because it is sort of a hanging thread. But I'm not happy with this resolution. I think it's a bit silly that she ends up being a member of the Quat-Mulat, and which is a nice reference to Picard. Slipping in Picard references in there, because of course the show Picard is what made up this Romulan faction, and who are absolute candor. And a lot of people sort of poked fun and made fun of the Quat-Mulat's sort of mandate to only support lost causes. That's actually a very impractical mandate, and how ridiculous. A lot of people pointing out how stupid and ridiculous that was in Picard, and it's still just as stupid and ridiculous now, so that they're continuing this. But whatever. I do like how Discovery don't really know anything about Vulcans, because Romulans, because that lines up with canon, because Discovery comes from a time before Balance of Terror, so that at this point in time the Federation know virtually nothing about Romulans. But then with an integrated Vulcan and Romulus, they're very ignorant about the Romulan culture of science. And I like how Burnham's sort of knowledge of Vulcan culture is out of date, because it's now intermingled with Romulan culture, which she's completely ignorant of. So I did like that aspect of it. But the whole Burnham's mother aspect of it, it's not that I'm disappointed we see this character again, because I thought it's important we see her again, but I never felt a connection to her. It felt like just a vague, this is the mother. I never cared about her, to be perfectly honest, and I find her interactions with Burnham a bit unearned, whatever. And so when she, in the trial just started bringing up, she's lying, she's not being candid, blah, 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 and, doing stuff that actively hurt her case, of course, I knew that while I was watching that the sentiment behind this is that, because she's supposed to be the advocate, the sentiment behind this is that she's in a roundabout way helping Burnham, because she's forcing her to be truthful and show candor and tell them why she's really there, and that she's doesn't feel like she belongs anymore. And that has nothing, what the fuck does that have to do with anything? Nothing. I just hated that. I just thought that was so stupid. And how, yeah. I didn't really think that had any effect on anything. Of course, they said, "Oh, the president of Vulcan or Navarre gave them, the information she was seeking in secret because she revealed who she really was, who her character really was." Bullshit. That's stupid. I'm sorry. I think that's dumb. I did like, however, I'm switching back and forth because what I didn't like. I did like how the different factions of Navarre. I like how that was presented, how they had the purest Vulcan, the purest Romulan, and sort of the mixed Romulan Vulcan, and how there's different sort of and they're kind of warring. They mentioned there's like civil unrest because of this. I like that. Again, this speaks to the analogy, and I think this really works. And I like how they have different aspects. And I love how Burnham assumed the Vulcan purist would be on her side, but it actually ended up being the Romulan purist who was on her side, and the Vulcan purist was the one who was most adamantly against her. That was a nice twist. I did like that, and I liked how the Romulan purists wanted to just defy. Be like, no, fuck you. We're gonna give her the information, and they were more willing to work with the Federation than the Vulcans was, which is again a nice little twist. But Burnham refused to take it because she didn't want to divide the society even more. But it seemed like their society was divided enough already. And so it wasn't about proving one person wrong. She didn't want to fuck with the culture. She would just take that information on the sly. I don't know. I guess I kind of like that. And I talk about the fact that Tilly's being promoted to first officer. I talked about last week how I wonder who they're going to promote to first officer because there was no... it would have to be one of these random characters who don't really say much because it's the only real options. I didn't even consider Tilly as an option because she shouldn't be, because that's stupid. Now, I know they tried to address, I'm just an ensign, but addressing a mistake doesn't get rid of that mistake. It's still a flaw. It's still a mistake. It's still a flaw. I don't care if they address it. Pointing out how big of a flaw it is doesn't make the flaw go away. It's still a flaw. It doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry, I was too much reminded of the Star Trek 2009 movie where Kirk went straight from a cadet to a captain. Now, granted, this isn't quite as bad as that, which, if you see my previous videos, I was actually screaming at the top of my lungs at how fucking stupid it is. Which I stand by those sentiments, by the way. It's probably the dumbest, most idiotic thing that ever occurred in cinematic history. Not just Star Trek universe, but yeah, definitely the Star Trek universe. But cinematic history, I've never seen a movie that had a thing that was as stupid as Kirk going straight from a cadet to captain. But anyway, this evoked that feeling. Granted, it's not quite as bad, but it's still ridiculous. It's still dumb. She should not be the first. I can't take her seriously. She's not qualified for this job. Like, everyone's like, say yes, we want you to be the first officer. But she's clearly not qualified. Like, then any of those random people that don't have any more lines clearly more qualified than she is. She clearly doesn't have enough experience, and she doesn't know what enough she's doing. This is a bad decision, and it's done, frankly, because she's the main character. Because it's just her and Stamets, and Stamets, of course, is too busy being the spore drive operator, so he can't really be first officer as well. I mean, I actually honestly think that Stamets would make more sense than Tilly. And they're the only real main characters, so it has to be one of them, so they made it Tilly. It's stupid. I'm sorry. I'm trying to be okay with it. I just can't. It's just really dumb. Really dumb. Anyway, I do also have to mention I like the scenes with Burnham and Book. Those were touching. And speaking of touching, the scene where Burnham did find out what became of Spock, and that he was his ambassador, and that united Romulus and Vulcan. That she was watching that tape from Unification Part 2. That, I must admit, that got to me. I did get a bit teary-eyed at that. I thought that was actually not over-the-top melodrama, such as the courtroom shit with her mother, but that was actually really effective drama. Like, that got to me. And maybe a cheap shot because they're using Leonard Nimoy, who passed away, but it was an effective use. I thought that it was very... It did honor sort of the Star Trek that came before it, and I think it made total sense. And this is what really worked for Burnham from a character's perspective, as opposed to that bullshit with, oh, I don't fit in, and her mother accusing her at the thing. This worked more because it was about her leaving her brother behind when her brother was still basically like a teenager and in his 20s, and then to see a recording of how him as an old man and what he accomplished really drives home the emotional consequences of jumping 1,000 years into the future. And so that, I thought, was probably the most effective scene they've had yet to drive home the emotional and mental impact of their time jump and just how much it affected them. So it's more than just that it's Leonard Nimoy and they're using a clip from The Next Generation. It actually works for her character and her character story more effectively than pretty much anything they've done so far. So that I actually, did really like. So anyway, my rating for Unification Part 3 out of 10, I guess I'll give this a 7, which is kind of my okay rating. 7, very good. Like 5 or less is this episode's bad. 6 or more is good, but a 7 is like, it's good, but it's okay. Like 6 is like, it's just a little okay, but 7 is like, it's okay. Because as I said, there's a lot of stuff I liked about this episode. There's a lot of stuff I didn't like about this episode. I was a bit polarized about it. I mean, overall, as I said, the positive probably outweighed the negative, but it still annoyed me a bit. Anyway, but as I said, like, that scene with Spock is probably one of the best they've done all season, so gotta acknowledge that. But anyway, that's it for my review of Unification Part 3. So, I do have an announcement to make. I will be doing a live discussion on Star Trek Discovery Season 3, mid-season discussion with my sister Alyssa, where we will be talking about theories on the burn, and maybe get a little bit into these first 7 episodes of the season, what we think of it. So if you're watching this review the same day that that the episode came out, then this live discussion will be tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. Pacific West Coast time in the U.S. But if you're watching this any day after the first day this episode was released, then the discussion already happened, and you can watch the discussion in the archives. Otherwise, you can join us live. I will put the link for this discussion video in the description below, so you can join us live or watch it in the archives by clicking the link below. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. You can check out my channel for many more Star Trek reviews as I continue to cover Discovery. I also cover other shows like The Expanse, which I'm so waiting for Season 5. So excited for it, but disappointed that Season 6 will be the last. Cry, cry, cry. At least we got 2 more seasons to look forward to. 1 just coming out in a month from now, so that's a good thing. Anyway, and I also cover other shows like The Outer Limits on the 1990s version, and Breaking Bad. So be sure to check out my channel for that and many other shows I cover, and thanks a lot for watching.